The rideshare timeline glitched at 2:06 a.m. The two stops took the same street twice. I'm not jealous of bodies, I'm jealous of itineraries. Bodies tell the truth if you stop staging them. Itineraries decide which truth claims the keys. At 2:06 a.m., my phone served up the cheerful cruelty only receipts can perfect. Trip complete passenger. Theo, stops. The Lark and Lantern right arrow Mercer dock right arrow the Lark and Lantern. The map was a blue thread that doubled back on itself, like a man rehearsing an alibi and bumping into the original story. Below it, a helpful line I hadn't asked to read, shared with Milo. Milo had texted at 10:43, bored wants one more drink. Don't wait up. He can turn a napkin into a donor agreement and a silence into music. At 7:05 I filmed the coffee because ritual is cheaper than religion and keeps better hours. I captioned it here. He reacted with the thumbs up he saves for nights that intend to rename themselves. The timeline didn't rename anything, it confessed. The apartment practiced neutrality. The radiator breathed like an amateur chorus. The hall mirror rehearsed being a window. I put water on because water doesn't audition. It makes heat and lets time decide if you learn. The kettle sang. The room cleared its throat. At 3:01 the lock obliged with the same small grace. Milo stepped in with his jacket folded over his arm and his shoes hooked by two fingers like witnesses too tired to lie. He smelled like lime and a decision made under forgiving light. He kissed the air near my cheek, our administrative truce, and then saw the timeline glowing on the counter, neat as a ledger that believes it's a diary. "You're up," he said, as if etiquette had mailed me a warning. "The car went to the Mercer and then changed its mind," I said. "It claims it returned you to the same bar like a story that knows it isn't done." His pupils performed the clock trick, the dilation that arrives just before he chooses a verb. He set the shoes down like small boats surrendering to a harbor and put both palms on the table the way our therapist taught us when we wanted to give words somewhere to land. The gesture is either dignity or triage. "Which question?" he asked. "Why or who?" "Why," I said, "because Matt, my emergency adult, kicks me under imaginary tables when I lead with names. If I start with who, the algorithm writes our minutes." He looked at the patch of wall where the paint keeps wanting to retire without ceremony. "Because the scene wouldn't land," he said. "Because donors clapped in the wrong places and wanted to be forgiven with gin. Because Theo, yes, said the dock had air that doesn't judge and a bench that remembers how to be furniture. Because we tried to be small together for 10 minutes and it felt like a lie we could sell. Because the driver asked if we wanted 2 stops and I said yes without counting." "Did you kiss him?" I asked, breaking Matt's superstition like a boy with a stick and a fence. "In the elevator at the Mercer," he said. "Once. Small and honest and wrong, he smelled like a promise with deadlines. I came home." "I hate how sane that sounds," I said. "The sentence I keep for mercy that arrives before I can match its tone." We didn't sleep. We made a noon appointment with daylight because cities pretend to be merciful when you can see their stains. The dock wore the afternoon like a corrected rumor. Theo waited with a paper cup and the posture of a man prepared to pay for his verbs. He didn't pretend surprise, my favorite trick in men who owe a room honesty. "I was coming to apologize," he said, "to you both and to whatever part of the river thinks fairies can absolve verbs. He loves you." He nodded toward Milo without trying to recruit him. "I like being near that. I'm sorry my notes use the same grammar as desire." "You don't get to call it ours," I said, "because cleverness is my superstition and I tithe when I'm anxious. Rehearsal is a room, a kiss is a scene, a 2-stop ride is a ledger with a stutter. You don't get to be the verb in our kitchen." He raised his hands like a man volunteering for inventory. "Then let me be the cancellation," he said. The river approved without clapping. At home, I moved the kitchen chair into the middle of the floor because procedures save men when gods won't. Milo smiled like a man relieved to be caught kindly. He came around the table and paused, always that pause, his most decent habit. I met him halfway. The first kiss carried the right weight, apology without speeches. The second slid his fingers under my shirt and my hand to the back of his neck, the place he keeps for oaths and sleep. We didn't perform a ceremony. We used heat as a system. If I could map the rest without being evicted by an algorithm that prefers virtue louder than accuracy, I would. Keep the inventory, one breath belonging to both of us, a belt resigning with grace, a wrist pinned with permission and not claim. The room did not applaud. It didn't need to. The city prefers quizzes. 2 nights later, the bar's account posted a carousel at 1:41 a.m. Hand saw light in the restroom mirror, 4 bodies if you counted reflections. Milo washing his hands, head down, Theo behind him, tie loosened. A stranger carrying a pizza box, me in the doorway because someone had tagged my name with civic enthusiasm. The caption said, "Boys being brave." Comments performed certainty. I typed nothing. I turned the phone face down. I moved the chair until the room remembered it wasn't a witness stand. When Milo came home, he handed me his phone without instructions. "Delete or archive," he said. "I don't want new grammar." "You don't need me to erase your verbs," I said. He rested his forehead to mine like a paperweight on a better draft. 3 days later, the email with fonts that have never had to apologize to a kitchen arrived. Residency, 7 days, quiet rooms, kind windows. Milo forwarded the PDF with every map attached, which is how you know a man has learned where courage keeps its receipts. "I want to go without disappearing," he wrote. "I'll send pages, not alibis. When I get back, ask me what I wrote before what I did." I taped 2 lines under the lemon magnet because props still save us when God is off shift. Addresses in the open. A good night here voice note every day. He added a third in his careful mess. If an "I can't" is coming, it happens where both of us are. Night 1, wind and a sentence I decided to believe. Today the table forgave me. Night 3, nothing, and my thumb became the worst teenager in the world. I opened the Rideshare history and stared at the loop like it might confess to being topology instead of treason. I closed it. I moved the chair. At 8:12 he called with a voice that made the kettle think there might be a God. "I almost kissed a window," he said. "It didn't know your name." I closed the blinds. He came back with a suitcase that didn't slam and 2 pages he treated like animals. "They're not good," he said. "They're mine," I said, and we performed our small religion. Paper, kettle, a room that knows it isn't a lobby. He slid his hands under my shirt from behind, slower than contrition, faster than nostalgia. "Here," he said into the bend of my neck, which is the only word left that has never demanded witnesses. We tried boring. We failed gracefully. We tried again. Theo learned to stand at the back of the house with his arms crossed like a man paying the bill he owes himself. He clapped exactly once after the intimacy rehearsal and didn't text. For a week, maps behaved. Tests returned like weather, indiscriminate and intimate. At 12:17 a.m., a ping. "Driver en route, car will wait 5 minutes, passenger." Theo, split with Milo. The button glowed like a dare. I stared until the letters remembered they were just pixels. I set the phone face down because sometimes fidelity looks like refusing to share a fare you didn't order. At 12:59, the lock sounded tired of pretending. Milo came in with rain in his hair and a sentence ready. "He asked me to walk him to the curb," he said. He tried to turn history into a polite present tense. I told him we don't split the bill on nouns. Do you want to hate me now or later? I prefer now. I like the way you come back from it. I'm tired of coming back, I said. I want to stay. He nodded and deleted Theo's thread under my eyes. No spectacle, just a man returning a key to an office that remembers what drawers are for. He touched my jaw with 2 fingers, the intimacy director's sacrament, repurposed for domestic faith, and the gesture belonged exactly where it landed. We went to bed without performing an essay on forgiveness. We used our mouths the way men do who still prefer heat to cleverness. The room did not applaud. It didn't need to. Weeks alter even honest bruises. The dock resumed being a noun instead of an omen. The app kept its talent for cheerful cruelty. I learned not to treat it like scripture. The city kept making rooms that want to pronounce us. I kept the kettle and the chair we move when words try to riot. Some afternoons I opened the looped itinerary and looked at its indecision the way you look at a distant storm. You don't need to stand in the rain to honor the sky. One more retest, smaller, therefore sharper. At 12:33 a.m., a text from an unknown number, "You're safe." No punctuation. The confidence of a man who thinks gentleness is transferable like credit. I blocked it. I deleted it. I put water on. The kettle argued on my behalf. When Milo came home, he emptied his pockets. Keys, folded program, a flattened sticker that read visitor. He slid it toward me like a bilingual apology. "I told the doorman not to love his signature anymore," he said. I told myself the same. We stood in the small, humiliating usefulness of that choice. Later in the dark, he kissed me like a man paying dues with the right currency at last. Slow interest, honest arithmetic. If there's a God for quiet forms of bravery, it's the way 2 hands relearn accuracy. The app slept. The night did not demand a soundtrack. Morning behaved. It crossed the floor like a dog that has decided we remain worth guarding. I made coffee and set his mug where his hand lands without thinking. He came behind me and placed his palm flat over my chest in that quiet territory between heartbeat and promise. "Here," he said, less a word than a careful wait. I put my hand over his and let the day borrow our courage. By noon, the theater posted a still from the talkback. Milo mid-laugh, profile bright. Theo beside him, listening like attention is a sport. The caption thanked donors and used community the way a grant application does when it means rent. I let my eyes do the smallest treason, measured the angle of an ankle toward a chair, and did nothing with it. Some truths don't need translation. They want nomming and then a polite seat in the back. We booked a train to a nowhere that has nothing to recommend it but a bed and a window. We didn't film the coffee there, we drank it. We didn't check the app. We chose a route with only one stop, ours. The kettle at the inn was loud, ugly, honest. We applauded it. We returned home gifted with nothing to prove. Tomorrow we'll try again. Receipts will offer quizzes dressed as care. Maps will pretend they're prophecies. Theo will exist where he exists, a person, not a villain. Donors will clap in the wrong places. The city will keep inventing nights that want to name us without asking. But when Milo says here, my body has stopped auditioning for suspicion. If another hour offers me a loop that thinks it can rename my street, I hope I remember the handful of humiliating, useful acts that got us through this one. Put water on. Move the chair when words try to riot. Ask why before who. Hold the breath before contact and let it finish being the scene. Then wait for the lock's small throat clearing like it's the first note in a song we can still tune to. We didn't get away with anything. We stayed. We are still staying. The dock can keep its echo, the river can keep its absolutions, the lobby can keep its glass. We'll keep being the address. Or, on the nights we can't, the map that admits its misprints and still shows the way back. Past the awning that thinks it's a verb, past the elevator's red dot that loves its own memory, into a kitchen where a chair knows what it's for. A kettle keeps its 7:05 appointment, and two hands that have done worse learn again how to touch without asking the night to edit.